Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I've set this light up purely for demonstration purposes. In the real world, the light is far too close to the plants. But just to give an example of what will happen when the light is actually turned on, I've got an assortment of orchids here. There's epidendrum at the back, so that's a highlight plant, maxillaria, medium to highlight. There's a Cattleya hybrid there, relatively highlight. One of my oncidiums. There's a little sarcochilus here. There's a Paphiopedilum that would totally singe in the level of light it's about to get. A little dendrobium that's growing on, a couple of dendrobium seedlings. These would benefit from light during the winter to help them grow on. There's a little bulbophyllum here and a Neophonetia. Now, in the main, the level of light that these particular orchids would require varies quite a bit, from not too much to quite a lot. So to put them all under a single light source would not be the best of ideas. But as I said, this is nothing more than a demonstration. And another thing you can do, if you've got a powerful light source, if you've got a shelf and another shelf below, this one in fact is a long way away from the one above, but if you had two shelves close together and you had a set of highlight orchids on the top shelf with gaps, the light would filter through and actually affect the shelf below as well. So you could have some highlight orchids on a shelf quite close to the light, and then another shelf below with some lower light orchids where the light would filter through. So the attachments for this are very, very simple to apply. You've got two little crocodile clips connected by a wire with another type of crocodile clip on the top. As I said, this light is far too close to the orchids at the moment, but I just wanted to show the clips that are involved. In addition to these clips, the ones I've used, there is actually an adjustable clip that goes on the top that is attached to a cord that you can lower and higher without actually disconnecting the fixings. So you would have an adjustable light should you need such a thing. Let's turn it on. It's mid-evening, I would say now. It's not actually starting to physically get dark yet, but because it's a dull day at the moment with heavy cloud, it's at the point where the light level would start to drop, which is the point at which I would use supplemental lighting. As I've said, my supplemental lighting is purely to extend day lengths. It's not its main source of light. So it will be used at the time of year in the UK when the day lengths are starting to drop below the 11-hour mark, and I want to keep them at around 12 hours to keep things growing on during our short days and low light levels of winter in the UK. So let's find something to poke the switch with, because I can't reach it, I'm not tall enough. And we'll see what happens. Just as an example, this is my little strip light which I use occasionally at night time. Now I've just turned that on and quite honestly nothing's happened. The camera's not even registering it. Yeah. So, but in the dark, that light enables me to see in here. That's all that little one is there for. But let's turn the beastie on and see what we get. Okay, you can see straight away the level of light is intense. Quite honestly, the light is useful as far over as here, and if the light was higher up, this would be useful light over here. I've got some leaves of my Hancockii that are about to get singed, but I'm not going to leave the light on long enough hopefully for that to happen. So you can see at the moment that the level of light up here is intense. The whole plants are lit up. Yeah, this is exceptional light. And if you look down below, the light is filtering through. So even though this shelf below is quite a long way from the light, it's still getting some. And again over here and here. Yeah, these mounted orchids here are a good 3 foot plus away from the light, and the light level they're getting is sufficient to keep them growing, to extend a day length. So yeah, I'm very pleased. I'm pleased with the setup, I'm pleased with the construction, I'm pleased with the attachments and the ease of use. And when we get to the time of year, this will be set up on a permanent basis. But you know, okay, my camera adjusts to light levels, but you can see straight away that it looks like they're sat in bright sunlight. It's that level of intensity, and it's too high for these orchids in the real world. As I said, this is just for demo purposes. So that would be the sort of setup. You know, the light would be up near the roof somewhere. If I was going to use that shelf and that light would have to go up right up to the roof. Otherwise it would be too close. And I would probably have to find some other way of fixing it rather than the fixtures supplied to enable me to get it up to the roof. Yeah? But I will find a place for this come the time of year, and I think it's going to serve a purpose. I mean, at the moment it's wasting some light. There's an awful lot of light that's actually shed on the glass up here where there's no plants. So obviously the positioning of such a light is quite important to maximize its use. You've got to look at the angle that the light comes away from the light, and it's probably something like about 45 degrees from the unit itself. And if you take that 45 degrees in all 4 directions away from the 4 sides, and then take it up about 3 foot from the plants, that's the surface area that you're going to get useful light. Yeah. So I think if I can set up a suitable shelf, I should be able to get a substantial number of plants underneath this light and still enable them to get useful light to extend my day length. So I keep looking at what I'm trying to film, and it's actually quite powerful against my eyes. One of the precautions says do not look at the light. I can see why. It's a very powerful light. So well pleased, and it will come in useful at the appropriate time of year where I can think about how to set it up properly at a suitable distance from one of my larger shelves, yeah, so that I can maximize its function and actually get as many plants as possible directly under it at a suitable distance. As I said, that is far too close at the moment. A couple of hours under that level of light would start to burn these plants. It's too close. Yeah, and you have to bear in mind, another thing you always need to bear in mind is if you're going to have plants of different heights, some are going to be closer to the light. The leaf tips are what you need to watch for, not the pot. Yeah, it's the leaf tips, and the leaf tips that are closest to the light still need to be a suitable distance, not so that they don't actually burn. Yeah. That is quite important. So when you're setting up a shelf for some sort of light, like an LED light like this, you need to get plants that are virtually all the same height. Yeah? You might allow some a little bit higher if they are higher light orchids, and some a little bit lower if they're slightly lower light orchids. But generally speaking, the plants on a shelf below a light like this are all going to get roughly the same light. And that light intensity needs to be suitable for all of the plants you've put there. Not all orchids are high light. Not all orchids are low light. You need to adjust your plants and the distance from the light accordingly. And when you set up a light like this and you've got a flat shelf, Obviously you're limited to the height of the plants relative to the light. So they all need to be roughly the same height and distance from the light. And you need to measure your distance to the top of the plant. If I was actually adjusting this in the real world to actually use it longer term, this is the height I'm looking at here. Not down here, it's here. These are the leaves that are going to be closest to the light. Yeah? So if I had a whole set of plants here that were roughly the same height, I could adjust my light accordingly, and they'd all be a suitable distance from the light. And that's something that a lot of people tend to forget. They sort of think, oh, I'll just put that one under my light, and forget that it's actually 6 inches taller than the other plants. And suddenly that plant is 6 inches closer to the light. Yeah, an easy thing to forget. So, yep, we will get this set up come the autumn, along with the other lights, and we'll see how we do. But I'm pleased with all the fittings and fixtures with this. The operation of setting this up is simplistic. No struggles. I didn't even get the instructions out. It's that simplistic. And that's good stuff. Yeah, we don't want complicated stuff. We've got enough complications trying to keep our orchids alive without actually worrying about fixtures and fittings at the same time. So for demonstration purposes, that's done. I've now got to put all of these orchids back where I got them from and try and remember where the hell I did actually get them from, because they've come from all over the place. And I'll see you next time. Oh, I'm just going to switch the camera off because I've got a really good, nothing to do with the light and all that sort of stuff, but I've got a really good film clip for you to try and go and find, probably the hardest one ever. I'll be back. And that's not it. Right, I've picked an obscure film this time. Many people will have not seen it or even heard of it, and yet it's got some absolutely stunning stars in it. And the line is, "I'm from the next place." Caribbean type accent, which I'm not very good at. Yeah? "I'm from the next place." So who said it? The character, which is also in part the name of the film, the actor, and the situation. Now come back with that one. I'm determined to get one that nobody actually gets, and this may be the one. God, that wind's getting up. We are in for a bit of a blow tonight, so we'll see how it goes, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.